This episode is sponsored by Canva. I challenged 4 colorists to fix these 4 clips shot under really bad lighting conditions. How the hell do you save skin tones like this? Now this may look like a simple white balance correction. It is not. Every colorist who attempted this used at least 10 nodes, multiple power windows, and all the tricks that Davinci Resolve has to get this shot looking like this. A few weeks ago, I asked you guys for your help in color correcting and color grading a few clips that I shot for the launch of my first piece of merch, this Western denim shirt. It's expensive, I know. It's worth it though, it's nice. The problem is the lighting was atrocious. Now, if you learned anything from this video, it's that lighting is the first step in color correction. Get the lighting right and you don't have to worry about any of this. But how do you bring something like this back from the dead?
Standard Western denim, cotton twill polyester with a splash of lycra. There are 2 slots, here and here. Run the microphone up, attach at the top.
Guys, I am sorry. Because an image like this is pushed so far into one corner that it can easily break apart or it can cause other artifacts trying to fix. The second tricky thing is that skin is made up of a bunch of different colors. It's not just pink on the vector scope. When you have such a huge color shift like that, even when you correct them, you get some results that are just not natural. But it's on the skin tone line. Whoever does the best color grade gets this Air 2S Flymore kit from DJI. All of your submissions, let's go through them right now. All right, we've narrowed it down to 4. Competition is now closed, but if you guys want to follow along with the assets, you can download them still below.
What's up, everybody? I'm Alex. I'm a colorist based out of San Diego. A deep dive into this shot eliminates some of these purple hues, creating a more blue tealish look over everything. I'm gonna leave node 1 open. I usually throw noise reduction on there. Node 2 here, we're gonna do a primary balance. Just using the lift and the gain, bring this image more to like a neutral. Node 3, hue versus sat. Let's see if we can eliminate some of these colors a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of red here for the flesh tones. Looking at his hands, the back of his neck, somewhere in that ballpark. Next up, let's throw this in a parallel. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and key for that ceiling to try and eliminate some of those magenta hues that are up there. I'm not too worried about all this down here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna qualify for the ceiling and then we'll probably have to protect it with the power window. Put a little denoise on there. So I'm gonna go with a circular window. If you don't see me clicking everything, it's because I have a panel here in front of me. Let's see if we can't first match the gradient on the ceiling and just desaturating everything that's up in there. Just starting to feel a little bit more uniform. Close to as one color up there as possible. Cool. The next step, this area, see if we can't clean up the floor, but at the same time we want to retain that color in the base, and we will go after these magentas. Same deal, protect with a power window. Add a little softness to it. We're just gonna start diving through each color here and seeing what, obviously magenta was a good one. Kind of sucking out some of those blues. It's okay, we're gonna take blue out even though we're going for that teal look or bluish look. We will throw in more colors later. The next step is to go after the shirts. Add another node, we'll go in and qualify that. Highlight those bad boys. Throw on that denoise, toss up a power window. Good. Start to find that blue. What I'm doing is I'm just using the highlights and the midtones. I'm using the offset wheel here. Overall, I want to just kind of push a little bit of the warmth back into the skin tones up there. Kind of somewhere in that ballpark. Next up, let's put another parallel line. I want to make the floors a little bit bluer. Just kind of toss a blue cast on everything. Just subtle, but enough that you start to feel that. We can throw another one up here at the top. Soften out that window, and then just bring a little bit more. Just kind of adds a little bit more life to the overall image. There's a little bit more separation. This feels a little bit more bluish. That's okay. And then probably for our last 2 steps, let's put on some noise reduction. I usually go up 2 frames. That's usually for performance to basically get, you know, real-time playback and everything. I stay under 10, so I don't ever go higher than 10 on the temporal. Let's go somewhere around 8. For our final touch, so over here, got some film grain. Go for a 16mm, like a 500T. Just adding some character, some texture, if you will. Don't want to overdo it. Playing that back, that feels pretty good. There you have it. I think we'll roll that. I would go through here and I would actually track my windows on to make sure everything is moving correctly. All the windows. That's our before, and that is our after. Thanks for watching.
I like how Alex is so old school with the power windows and curves. Curves work because they don't break apart the image as easily. And this dude has been in the game like 12 to 15 years, and his work really feels cohesive with the balance of the blues and the skin tones. Very clean, very good execution.
So the major challenge with this scene is the heavy pronounced magenta tint. I also didn't have any information about the camera or the color profile that was used, except that the wide shots are in HLG Rec 2020 and the remainder shots are in Rec 709. So for a common denominator, we'll set our color space to Rec 709, assuming web delivery, and make all color corrections manually from there. I chose this shot as the hero shot because it has a nice close-up of Josh, and I can still see a bit of the second character, and of course, the denim shirt, which is the focus in the scene. So before we start tackling the exposure, I want to fix the color imbalance first. Looking at the waveform, we can see the issue is mainly in the highlights and midtones. So using the gain and gamma wheels, we'll balance out the red, green, and blue channels. I can still see some issues in the top highlights, so I'll move to the log wheels and balance out the highlights better. I want to maintain as much detail as possible from the original image, so we'll create a parallel node and fix exposure on it. We'll bring up the overall exposure a bit with the offset wheel and continue fine-tuning it with the gain, gamma, and lift wheels. We want this awesome space where the Batmobile is stored to maintain that clean black and white look, so we want to make sure that our blacks and whites remain neutral. To do that, we'll add a new node after the parallel mixer and use the Lumiverse Sat curve to clean up the shadows and highlights. So far, I'm happy with the base correction. I'll add the shot into a group, and now we can start creating a look. For the look, I want to use one of Resolve's built-in film looks, so for that, we need to add a color space transform and set the output gamma to Cineon Film Log. Then, on the next node, we'll add a film look LUT, specifically going for the Rec 709 Kodak 2383 D65 LUT. Now, this looks pretty good, but it's making the skin tones look a bit reddish, and we can be sure of that by looking at the vector scope. So I'll create a new node and use the hue versus hue curve to fix that. I love the look that we're now getting, but I'm realizing that we have two issues. First, the added contrast from the look is making the shadows on Josh's face too dark. And second, the denim shirt has very little color and density. So let's jump back to the clip and add a parallel node. Here I'll use a mask to isolate just Josh's face, track it, and then use the HDR wheels to bring up the exposure just on those dark areas. Then for the denim, I'll add another parallel node and use both a qualifier and a mask to isolate it and the other character's shirt too. We'll then bring the midtones down and push some blue into them with the gamma wheel. Yes, that looks better. To save us some time, we'll save as still this correction and use the same correction as a starting point for the other close-up shots. Of course, there is some shot matching we'll have to do, so I'll create a second row of parallel nodes for doing small exposure and hue versus sat corrections. Now moving on to the wide shots, because they were recorded with a different color profile, I'll start from scratch, but I'm gonna be following the same steps. What I'm noticing in these shots is they do have some extra noise, so I'll include a node with the Neat Video plugin for noise reduction. Once everything is matched, I'll jump back again to the group, and because I'm seeing small hints of green and magenta while going through this, plus some blues that have a little too much contrast for my taste, I'll add a node and bring the saturation down for those specific colors with the hue versus sat curve. Then on a final node, as a final touch, I'll add the texture pop effect. Use the qualifier to select the skin tones, then invert it. What this is doing is it's allowing us to apply the effect to everything else, but the skin tones. So let's bring up the strength, and that'll add more detail to the scene. And voila, we're getting a nice neutral, clean look. Now, I didn't want to do anything too crazy, as I didn't want to introduce some weird color tints in a space that's supposed to have a clean black and white look, as well as staying true to the original color of the denim shirts. Now, I know this was a quick overview, but by following these steps, you can go from a magenta color cast to a contrasty cinematic look with lots of texture. The shirt looks great. I can't wait to receive mine in the mail.
He legitimately locked up the IG account color grading. Yep. He locked it up. So Denver's got a color grading course, but he also invented his own color grading software. So this guy is super legit, and I found out a week ago he is a Marble Orbit backer on Kickstarter. So I may be a little biased here. Now, at first glance, I did feel his grade was a little too punchy, a little too contrasty for my taste. I'll be honest with you, the more that I look at it, the more I'm drawn to it. He was one of the few people that color graded all of the clips. And I think that's the mark of a real pro, because he's not thinking about what looks good on these 1 or 2 clips. He's looking about what can actually work, what can tie the whole piece together. Those clips, you can't just copy and paste. Some of them just won't work. What he found is that you can hide a lot of the blemishes, particularly in the skin tones, where we saw other people fall apart. You can hide it with a real stylized, contrasty look. You know, my hat's off to him. I know how to make things, but I don't know how to design advertisements or poster boards or these layouts, basically the stuff that you need a designer for, and that's where Canva is pretty great. Denim shirt, now on sale. Let's see if we can steal a template from Canva and make this thing pop. It's got these elastic straps to run a hidden mic, so let's add some text that shows that. They have over 100 million assets to work with. Fonts, colors, stock photos and videos, music selection. Now we got a dope story, and we can upload straight to the gram. Guys, I did that in 10 minutes without any experience. At $12.99 a month, you can get Canva Pro, and you can share it with 5 of your teammates. That's pretty legit. Split the cost. Back to the episode.
My name is Hopkins, and I'm a colorist based in Dortmund, Germany. There are a million ways to tackling shoe shits in the footage. Looking at the image, the first thing I like to do is to bring up the vector scopes. We can clearly see that the image is pivoting towards the blue magenta vectors. But notice how the images are a bit desaturated. This will make it hard for us to see the corrections we're doing next. Therefore, we need to exaggerate it. Going into the balance node, I started by converting the color space of the clip. I used the color space transform plugin to convert from S-Gamma 3 to Rec 709. We can now clearly see the heavy tint. This is gonna make it easy for us to see what we're doing next. Next, I tackled the magenta tint using the color warper in Resolve 17. Now our skin tones are looking about right, but some parts of the image are still picking up the magenta shift. This is okay, as we can easily fix those areas with a bunch of secondary corrections, which is exactly what I did in the stack of nodes here. First, I created a power window just to isolate the bottom part of the frame. Then I used the color warper to shift the colors towards blue, and here's the result. Then I created a layer mix node to isolate the wooden trolley board. I fixed the upper end of the frame using the same technique as I used in this node here. Then I keyed the shirts, and using the hue versus saturation curves, I dialed back just a tiny bit of the blue. Then I noticed that the white coat was still picking up the magenta tint. The easiest way I could fix this was to create an ovular power window and using the color warper to remove just that color. Then I keyed out the skin and heavily pushed it towards orange-red to create consistency in the skin. I then desaturated the image a little bit in this node. Then I finished it off by pivoting those purple colors towards blue, and here's the result. Now about the look section of the frame. I decided not to go for a heavily stylized look, as I wanted to return some of the aesthetics available on set, so I just enhanced what the initial balance had brought up. I started with a bit of noise reduction, followed by vignette to create some depth for our subjects to pop. Then I added about 20% of the Koji's codec to 383 loss. Then I desaturated the frame, a little film curve to brighten up the image, and then I finished off the look by pivoting those purples towards blue, and here's the result. And to show how much improvement we've done to the image, here's the before and after. I just want to say a big thank you to Josh for having me on this round.
Hopkins from Germany. If it doesn't work out color grading, you could definitely go into voiceover. It's such an interesting voice. I love the contrast of blues and the warmer tones and how the wood really pops. Just using a simple key, he was able to pull skin and wood out. After all, you know, skin is the same color as wood, so it does make sense. What I like is how structured his work is. With the compound node for the balance, he keeps the node tree clean and less cluttered. You can tell that he's been trained correctly. Bro, Dankeschön.
Blue jeans, Air Ones, and a white tee. 06 hanging out the window like E. High feet on one, off a bottle might be my tree. Smoking Agent Orange High C.
Yo, Will Mannering here. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's jump into Resolve and check out my color grading process for this. We're in our color tab. Let's kill all this. And the first obvious thing is that we need to balance out our image. There's too much blue. The shadows are fairly neutral, but everything else is kind of not where we want it. So in one node, we've created way more color separation. Our main anchor points are where we want them to, our highlights, our shadows, and skin tones. And in order to do that, we've had to push and pull with our primaries to get all of our luminance values and our color in the right place that we want it to. So we've created way more color separation. In the next 3 nodes, we're swinging our hues and our saturations to be more in line with where we want them to be. So we can see with the vector scope before and after, it's just pushing into that opposite complementary color. So if we zoom into our skin on our HSL node, just giving it more juice, more color contrast. Now that the image is balanced, we can start injecting that sauce or that juice, or whatever you want to call it. Google Dark Knight technical specification, and this is what we want. Kodak 2383. Now this film print is built into Resolve as a LUT. Come into Resolve, drop in your Cineon Film Gamma Kodak 2383 LUT, and in 2 nodes, we've created this insane contrast. And that's obviously too much. So in our corrector node, opening it up a bit more, letting it breathe. In the next 3 nodes, we're just balancing out our anchor points from the LUT. So in all of these, before and after, we've created this really nice contrast and pop. Next, we've got our look and our skin node. This is injecting some teal and cyan into those shadows and midtones. And in our skin tone, we're making sure that our skin tone is proper. It's sitting where we want it to, before and after. And the nice thing is that our key output is linked to our skin node. So if we go into our node key, we can adjust the output of both of them at the same time. So if we want it really intense, that's a bit too much. I'll leave it at 0.4. Next, we've got a highlight adjustment just to bring up the gain a bit more. We've got our glow node, putting the emphasis where we want it to be. We've got our midtone detail, which just gives our textures a lot more contrast before and after. I think it really fits that kind of Batman aesthetic. We've got our soften node, which is just softening up these lines. So before and after, they're just a bit too sharp. Grain, noise reduction, and our highlights to bring down his shirt. Before and after. And that is it. Josh, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to work on your footage. It's been so much fun. Hope you enjoyed it.
Blue jeans, Air Ones, and a white tee. 06 hanging out the window like E. High feet on one, off a bottle might be.
Will Mannering, where do I even begin? First off, this guy's f***ing cool. I would like to get a beer with this guy. Very clean work, very clean explanation, great energy. I love how he took the Dark Knight film gram. I didn't even think about getting the film specs in the technical section on IMDb, but yeah, that's totally a trick you can do. For not labeling himself as a colorist, he's definitely giving these pro colors some run for their money. Look out for Will, dude. Nice job, bro. So who's the winner? Who gets the $1,300 Air 2S Fly More combo package? That's up to you guys. Vote down in the comments below, 1, 2, 3, or 4. All 4 of these guys definitely have earned my respect, and all 4 of them are getting a classic Western denim shirt for participating. Thank you guys so much. If you guys want to support these guys, if you have any color grading work, give them a like and a follow. Tell them great job. I will pin the winner in the comments next week, and I will also announce it at the start of the next episode. If you think you can do a better job, those files are still available down below. See if you can do a better job, send them to me. The competition is now closed.